While Invasion of Astro Monster arguably proved to be a high point for the Godzilla franchise up to that point, the film ended up doing less at the box office than expected. And so to cut costs for the follow-up, Toho reduced the budget, brought in an entirely new production team, and began to shift the focus of the series to appeal more to children and teenagers. And so this is how we ended up with Ebirah, Horror of the Deep, a decidedly different kind of Godzilla movie than those that came before it. After his brother goes missing at sea, young Ryota and his two friends, along with a bank robber, steals a yacht to find him. They get washed ashore on an island where they discover a terrorist organization called the Red Bamboo is enslaving the inhabitants of the nearby Infant Island, home of Mothra. In the hope of defeating the Red Bamboo and escaping the island alive, they awaken a sleeping Godzilla, who sets his sights on the island's protector, the giant lobster Ebirah. Ebirah, Horror of the Deep moved the series from its more global science fiction-based roots to a more low-key remote setting. Since the entirety of the movie takes place on an island, there are no city destruction scenes, an intentional omission made in an effort to reduce costs. While this definitely makes the film feel smaller in scope compared to the previous films, the island setting makes for a more exotic, adventurous tone that adds a bit of freshness to the franchise, which at the time was starting to grow stale. Adding to the uniqueness of this film is Godzilla's role in the story and how he is portrayed. Since this was originally meant to be a King Kong film, Godzilla acts in ways that are out of character for him. He shows an interest in humans that he never had before, and his preference for using rocks feels very Kong-esque. Even the antagonist monster Ebirah, a simple lobster with no unique abilities, seems like a more natural fit for Kong than Godzilla. When viewed in this way, the movie becomes a fascinating thought experiment of what could have been. It's a shame then that the actual finished product isn't nearly as interesting as its production. Reflecting its budget, Ebirah marks a significant decline in quality for the series. The plot is contrived, providing the barest framework for getting the characters to the island, and the characters themselves are rather bland and make some very questionable decisions just for the sake of moving the plot forward. Akira Takarada stands out the most as Yoshimura, a bank robber with a heart of gold. Akihiko Hirata also returns sporting an eye patch once again as the Red Bamboo leader, along with Kumi Mizuno as Dayo, a native of Infant Island who escapes and tags along with the gang as they manage to be a thorn in the side of one of cinema's most incompetent terrorist organizations. As far as the monsters go, both Godzilla and Mothra have seen better days. Mothra looks as if she's been collecting dust on a shelf for a while, and by the end of the film, Godzilla has been used and abused so much that the suit is practically falling apart. Ebirah, on the other hand, is a wonderful effect and is executed quite well. The two fights between Godzilla and Ebirah are decent and entertaining, but don't truly excel, though shots of them fighting underwater was a first for the series. What helps this film is its pace. New to the franchise, Jun Fukuda's flashy, colorful direction gives the film energy and keeps the plot moving along at a great pace. There is never a down moment, and so it is never boring or too slow. Despite not showing up for an hour, once Godzilla is awakened, he is a constant presence. And it is cool having Mothra show up to give the film a connection to the prior entries, though the absence of Yumi and Emi Ito is notable. Despite some inspired stuff, however, Ebirah, Horror of the Deep can't quite escape the realities of its production. There's simply no denying that this is the black sheep of the franchise, a Godzilla film that was not originally intended to be a Godzilla film. The movie just doesn't stand up to the great entries that came before, and while not a disaster by any stretch, it is rather forgettable and offers very little reason to ever rewatch it. For more reviews and opinions on all things Godzilla, subscribe and stay tuned to Up From the Depths.